I want to be there to help see the build out and help have a part in the Open Cape project. Many of you read in the newspaper, and let's thank Congressman Bill Delahunt, $32 million of federal recovery ARRA money coming here to the Cape. And I want to be here to work with a diverse group of partners to see that those construction jobs really happen as this Open Cape network is built. I want to be there to work with those partners to see how this economic development tool can help each and every one of us, how it will help large companies, it'll help startups, it'll help mom and pop little home businesses. This, I think, is the most important and significant economic tool and economic engine that we see coming down the pike, and I am just so optimistic about it, and I want to get reelected to be there to help these people as we're seeing this through and building this out. And speaking of wireless communications, I'm running for re-election also because I want to be there for the ribbon cutting of the Marconi Maritime Center in Chatham.
Right.
You know, Guillermo Marconi was the father of wireless communication. Most of the time I love this. Sometimes I want to take my wireless BlackBerry and throw it into the harbor here. But nevertheless, the work he did was so important. And I remember clearly during my first term, my first office hours in Chatham, this group of men and women came and they approached me and said, Sarah, we had this great project, let us explain it to you. They did. They said, but we have one major hurdle. We are leasing the property from the town, which means we are subject to the state prevailing wage law, which means, without getting too much in the weeds here, that would drive up the cost of their renovations by some 20 or 30%, putting this project in jeopardy. Well, Chatham Town Meeting sent up a home rule petition. I worked that through, talked with my colleagues, got support for it, and the bids have gone out on this. There's over $200,000 that can now be spent in Chatham that's going to be used to hire local contractors, our own carpenters, our own electricians, our own plumbers, and our own roofers. So it's for projects like that that I want to be there. And I want to be there to support the independent business owner. You know, Lynn and I have owned the Heritage House, our bed and breakfast. We're getting ready to open for our 18th season this year. So for me, knowing about what it's like to run a small business, it's not something that I need to learn in school. It's not something where I need to do a case study to understand it. It's not something where I need to go and get a fancy degree to understand the economics of it. I mean, this has been our bread and butter. This has been our livelihood. This has been what we have been doing with a fair amount of success for the last 18 years. So when I saw and heard from constituents that the unemployment insurance rates were poised to go up by a double-digit increase, I walked right into the Speaker's office and I said, Mr. Speaker, I'm hearing from my small businesses that their unemployment insurance rate is about to rise. As a fellow business owner, I can tell you, we operate on razor-thin margins. And something like this can and will be the tipping point. And if we don't stop this, we will have more people on the unemployment rolls, not less. We need to take action to save these jobs. Well, I'm pleased to say, about a month ago, the legislature voted, I think unanimously, to freeze those unemployment rates. So we stop that dead in its tracks in support of our small business owners. Something else that's out there on the horizon, potential double-digit increases in health insurance premiums for small business owners. I'm hearing this, Provincetown all the way down to Harwich. There's an electrical company, an electrician's company in Truro, a 52% increase this year versus last year in their insurance premiums by Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's not acceptable. We can't have that. Those same razor-thin margins, the risk applies here as well. To save those jobs, something has to be done. And what I have done to save those jobs is I am co-sponsoring legislation that will allow small businesses to band together. For example, most already belong to chambers of commerce, and then under those chambers or other organizations to do group negotiating and buying. It'll finally level the playing field again here in Massachusetts to give small businesses as much clout as the larger Boston-based companies, and we need to get this done. And I'm also running for re-election to build on my successes. You know, when I first ran, I promised that I would put a face on who we are here down on Cape Cod. There still can tend to be a perception that, oh, it's all about going to the beach and playing golf, and everybody's really wealthy, and you live in those big homes on the waterfront, and what would you need from the state after all? You don't have any problems down there. I mean, I think Cleon can say, we hear this all the time. Well, I promised to put a face on the Cape, and here's how I've kept that promise. As recently as last Friday, the Speaker of the House of Representatives came to meet with small business owners. We organized a small business roundtable to hear their concerns, which, by the way, health insurance was tops on the list. He also met with Dan Wolf, the owner and CEO of Cape Air, to understand how Cape Air is the second largest private employer on Cape Cod, and the valuable service that they provide, and the jobs that they provide, the transportation services that they provide, and the good work that Dan does on all the volunteer boards that he serves on. So the Speaker has been here, which, by the way, was his second trip. About a year ago, he came down and I organized a forum. He was at that time chair of the Ways and Means Committee. I invited all municipal officials to come to gain a better understanding of what the local aid and the budget picture might look like, because as you know, we've had a little bit of a bumpy road. So I saw as my role to bring him here so that my selectmen and town managers and finance committee people could hear firsthand from the guy who was chair of Ways and Means, but also for him to be able to hear from the selectmen what was important. The governor has been here at least 2 times on tourism-related things. He was in Harwich at the Wauquasit Inn with a big tourism summit, and then last summer I had the privilege and honor to walk with him down about a mile of Commercial Street. And what we did on that walk is I brought him into the shops and the restaurants and the retail businesses and the hotel businesses along that avenue, along that street, for him to meet the owners, for him to meet the person working the cash register in the retail store, to hear the stories, and when he asked, how's business, to hear it from the person who actually owned the business. This Thursday, I'm going to be starting the day, actually out, Ray Gottwald is chair of the Harwich COA, and the Elder Affairs Secretary, Ann Hartstein, is coming to the Cape for a visit. And I will be with her all of that day. We begin our day in Harwich, and then we move to the Council on Aging building in Orleans, and we finish the day at the COA in Wellfleet. And again, bringing her here so she can see the face of who we are on Cape Cod, and to meet the COA director and all of the people that make those organizations work and provide the beautiful service that they have. Betsy Wall, head of Mass Office and Travel and Tourism. She never really paid much attention to us before, as shocking as that is when tourism is our #1 economic engine. I've had numerous meetings with her in Boston, and she too, on at least 3 separate occasions, has come here to the 4th Barnstable District. Anita Walker from Mass Cultural Council, the executive director, I can't even count for you the number of times that she has come to the outer and lower part of Cape Cod and met with the leaders of our cultural institutions, and then worked through her staff with many of those cultural institutions to understand how the state can better support their effort. And by the way, some of that has turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars of grant money for building rehab and support of institutions such as the Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater, the Fine Arts Work Center, and many others. So Anita has become a great friend, not just to me, she's a friend of all of us here on the outer and lower part of Cape Cod. And of course, Secretary Ian Bowles, Energy and Environmental Affairs, 2 critical things for us here on the outer and lower Cape. He has been my guest here, and we've stood together many times as the various conservation trusts have been receiving grants to purchase more open space, to protect and preserve our beautiful landscape and nature here that all of us treasure. And I would argue that many of us live here because of the great natural beauty and the natural resources that exist here.